Hello, Caps fans. Welcome back to the Janaea Talks Caps podcast. First podcast of the regular season here. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the first week and a little bit of the regular season here. We're just over a week into the regular season. The Caps currently sitting at 2-1-2 record. That is 2 wins, 1 regulation loss, as well as 2 overtime losses. So they've collected 6 of a possible 10 points to begin the season. And as far as the Caps opening night lineup, it was pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. And we were, of course, without the services of star center Evgeny Kuznetsov, as well as top pairing defenseman Michael Kempny. But it didn't matter. Looking at game number 1, it was, of course, played in St. Louis, with the Blues raising their 2019 Stanley Cup banner before the puck dropped there. It was their first Stanley Cup in their franchise's history, and of course, us Caps fans can all relate to that and just how utterly amazing that feels. So I would like to extend a big congratulations once more to the St. Louis Blues and their fans who waited a long time for that moment. But the congratulations was over as soon as the puck dropped, and the Caps slapped the Blues with a welcome back to reality in this game. Although the scoreboard would tell you that it was only a 1-goal game, the Caps really laid an ass whooping on the Blues all over the ice in this one. The Caps, they played a heavy, aggressive, physical brand of hockey, the same brand of hockey that actually won them the Stanley Cup in 2018, and the same brand that the Blues used to win the Stanley Cup in 2019. The Blues, of course, taking a page out of the Caps book as far as that goes. You know what they say, imitation, the sincerest form of flattery. But the difference in this game was that the Caps did a much better job of it than the Blues did, and were sort of able to take over the game by beating the Blues at the very style of hockey that the Blues most want and like to play. The Caps are a bigger and a heavier team than the Blues from top to bottom, and it doesn't hurt that the Caps are also a lot faster and with a lot more skill, again from top to bottom, than the Blues. These things were all very evident in this game. The top line was dominant for the Caps. Stop me if you've heard that one before. And Alex Ovechkin scored the first goal of the season for the Caps off of a silky sweet set of moves followed by a quick flick of his wrist, which, as we all know, a flick of Alex Ovechkin's wrist produces a shot equivalent to that which would be fired out of a cannon. He first faked a slap shot and then danced around NHL veteran Jay Bouwmeester as if it were nothing. And while Bouwmeester was bent over trying to pick up his jockstrap from the ice, Ovechkin fired a wicked wrister past Jordan Binnington and into the back of the net. Ovechkin's goal really seemed to wake the Caps up after they had slept through most of the first period of their season, and it was pretty much all Caps from there on out. The Caps would eventually tie it on a blast by Dmitry Orlov, and then win it in overtime on a beauty of a goal by Jakub Vrana. Overall, the Caps outshot the Blues 34-22 in the Blues home barn, and just generally spoiled their banner-raising opening night as much as you can spoil a banner-raising opening night. I don't know. I'm of the mind that you can't really spoil such a night. Like as a fan, if my team is raising a banner because we won the freaking Stanley Cup, you can beat us 10-0 in a regular season game in October on the same night that we're raising our banner, and I will not give a single fuck. That will not dampen my mood. We won the Stanley Cup. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that there's any ruining that night as far as Blues fans are concerned. So anyways, congrats again to the Blues and to their fans, but the party is now officially over. The new season is underway, and it started with a victory for the Caps. And if you ask me, this is the brand of hockey that the Caps need to play in order to go win another Stanley Cup. They need to play heavy, they need to be physical, they need to impose their will both physically and offensively. They need to use their massive size to their advantage, winning pucks and wearing teams down on the forecheck, and then, of course, use their infinite skill to pop the resulting turnovers into the back of the opposition nets. They followed the same game plan in Game 2 in a second straight game on the road and a second straight home opener for the opposition, and they spoiled the Islanders' home opener as well, beating the Isles 2-1 at Nassau Coliseum. Jakub Vrana, he opened the scoring off of a rush play, scoring in back-to-back games to start the season. Remember, I have him pegged for 30-plus goals this season, and as usual, he has been flying out there. This was yet another goal created by his supersonic speed. The Caps also scored on the power play for the second straight game, with TJ Oshie whacking in a pretty top-shelf backhander as he was falling to the ice. The Caps again outshot the opposition, but the big story in this one really was Caps rookie netminder and top-rated prospect Ilya Samsonov, who stopped 25 of 26 shots for his first NHL win in his first NHL game. And actually, the only goal that beat him was a triple deflection off of three Capitals players, which Radko Gudas then eventually inadvertently, of course, kicked into his own net. Samsonov had no chance on the goal, and Gudas, a good teammate that he is, he went immediately over to Samsonov and apologized. No worries, though, as the Caps won the game in spite of that unlucky goal against, and Samsonov made several sparkling saves along the way. So the Caps were 2-0 and playing really well, and they continued playing really well through two periods against the Carolina Hurricanes in game number 3 on the season. And they looked as if they were well on their way to a 3-0 start to the season. But it would not be our beloved Caps if they didn't drive us a little bit mental sometimes, right? Right. I'm glad we all agree. Our home opener was happening on the second night of a back-to-back for us. As like I said, we had just beaten the Islanders at Nassau Coliseum the night before, so it was to be expected with 3 games in 4 nights to begin the season that the team would perhaps be a little bit gassed by the end of this one. So I was willing to give them a pass. So how it went down was new Capital and instant fan favorite Garnet Hathaway opened the scoring for the good guys in the first period. And by the way, how fucking amazing is this new fourth line of ours? Like, holy shit. They're so good. I mean, I knew they were going to be good even before the season started, but so far they're blowing even my lofty expectations away. They're so damn good. So anyways, Hathaway scores a beauty top shelf where mama keeps the peanut butter type of goal off of an ugly turnover by the Canes. Although to be fair, that turnover was forced by some great aggressive forechecking work done by the Caps. You love to see it. So it's 1-0 for the Caps on Hathaway's goal. Then TJ Oshie walks in a rebound in the second period, and it's 2-0 Caps. Oshie, as well as line mate Jakub Vrana, are somewhat on fire to start the season, producing consistently right out of the gate. Then Garnet Hathaway scores again to make it 3-0 Caps. So Capital One Arena is going crazy. The building is rocking. The fans are loving it. And then, hold on a second. Carolina's resident douchebag, Rod Brindamore, is challenging for goalie interference. Yes, goalie interference in a game against the Hurricanes. Does that sound familiar? It does to me. April was not that long ago. Anyways, listen. I will start by saying that the goalie interference calls in the NHL are pure crap. That's it. They're just crap. The rule itself is crap, as it allows for too much subjective reasoning done on an 8-inch fucking iPad of all things by NHL referees who are not known for getting their subjective calls right to begin with. And so the rule itself is crap, and because of that, usually the results are crap as well. And that was the case once again in this game. So basically, what happens is they say, anyways, that Brendan Lepsick, the goal is called back because of him. They say that Lepsick, I don't know, farted in the general direction of Canes goalie James Reimer or something along those lines. It was called back for goalie interference. It was really, really weak. It was crap. So we go back to being up only 2-0 instead of 3-0. And in the third period, it was pretty evident that the 3 games in 4 nights and the second night of a back-to-back to open up the season, it was starting to show on the Caps. They had slowed down considerably, both physically and mentally. So Carolina gets a power play goal early in the third period. to get back into the game, and they would tie it halfway through the third period on a Jacob Slavin goal. So the Caps blow the lead in the third period, and again, because of the tough schedule to start the season, I was willing to give them a pass if it were going to be a one-time thing. It has not ended up being a one-time thing, but I'll get to that. So the Caps' power play was absolute horseshit in this game against Carolina. And again, I was willing to give them a pass actually for the first 3 games of the season, with power play mainstay Evgeny Kuznetsov being out of the lineup for the first 3 games, so long as the power play would correct itself once Kuznetsov returned. And the power play actually ended up being pretty good for those first 2 games. Without Kuznetsov, it scored in back-to-back games, going 2 for 5, or 40% overall, so that's great. But it was horseshit in this game. 0 for 6 to be exact against the Hurricanes. The Caps were able to force a lot of penalty calls by playing aggressively against the Canes, forcing them to take penalties, but they were not able to cash in on any of those opportunities. And that is important because as we head to overtime, Nicholas Backstrom does what he does with the puck and forces new Canes captain Jordan Staal to take a penalty against him. So the Caps go to the power play. Lights out for Carolina, right? You would think so. Okay, so here is my big issue with that power play in overtime. I want you guys to go back and rewatch it if you can't remember what happened. It's 3-on-3 overtime in the NHL nowadays, so the power play becomes a 4-on-3. That's how it works, and that is good news for the Caps. Even more room to operate than what you get with a 5-on-4, and you still get to put 4 of your best guns out on the ice, which gives you a lot of options. So here's my problem with what the Caps did here. Yes, this team has a lot of options to score, but this team also has the best option of all the options in the league, of all the options in the world. They have the best one to score. And his name, of course, is Alex Ovechkin. So with this much ice available in a 4-on-3 situation, why the fuck are you having Ovi and Carlson pull the switch and having Carlson being the shooter? I cannot understand this for the life of me. You have the guy with the best shot in the world on your team and on the ice, with nothing but ample room to fire away shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. Why are you not using that to your advantage? I was literally screaming at my TV as this happened. I could not believe that this was the plan of attack here in this type of a situation. And it's not as if, it's not as if Ovi missed a couple of shots and then they switched. No, they pulled the switch right away. So Ovi did not fire a single shot on the entire 2-minute power play in overtime. That is just ridiculous. And to be clear, it's not the players deciding what they're going to do out there in this situation. The power play coach, Blaine Forsythe, has drawn it up for them. And I was just baffled by his decision-making here, like literally baffled. And to be clear again, of course, John Carlson has a great shot. We all know this. He did actually win the NHL's hardest shot competition last season when Ovi was not there. But his shot is not deadly the way that Alex Ovechkin's is. And by the way, that's not John Carlson's fault. Nobody's shot is deadly the way that Alex Ovechkin's is. That's like saying, you suck at singing because you can't hold a candle to Whitney Houston. It's an unfair point of comparison. This is why Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of this generation, and most likely the greatest goal scorer of all time by the time that it's all said and done. So nothing against John Carlson here at all. Carlson would be the best option on the power play on a number of NHL teams. Almost all NHL teams, actually. But when you are lucky enough that you have Alex Ovechkin, for God's sake, use him and his otherworldly one-timer. Anyways, Carlson missed about 157 shots on the 4-on-3. The Caps failed on the power play, and the Caps ultimately went on to lose the game in overtime. But honestly, it's okay. Taking 5 of the first 6 points when you're missing a top center and a top-pairing defenseman, starting, the first 2 games on the road, your home opener's second night of a back-to-back, it's pretty damn good to come with 5 of 6 points. So I was pretty satisfied overall. But babes, these Hurricanes fans, my God, they're so ridiculous. They're basically trying to drum up a rivalry out of thin air with the Caps. I mean, I get it. When you haven't been relevant forever, and so therefore you have no real rivals, you almost have to try and drum something up out of thin air. But I've got news for you, Canes fans. We're too busy for you. We've got real rivals, and we're honestly too busy hating them to have any spare time for minor annoyances such as yourselves. That's just the hard truth. I was on Twitter after this game, and the Carolina Hurricanes official Twitter account tweeted out, and I quote, that they are living rent-free in DC. So, I am confused. First of all, let's get something straight right off the bat. This is not a rivalry. Capitals Penguins, that is a rivalry. I would rather lose 100 games to the Hurricanes than to lose to the Penguins one time. That is straight facts, and it's not an exaggeration. I just don't care about the Hurricanes. Sorry, delusional teenager who runs their Twitter account. Second of all, do they really think that we were really that bothered by losing to them in overtime in game number 7 last season? Because I sure as hell wasn't. I was still on a fucking high from winning the Stanley Cup less than a year before. I wasn't giving a shit about losing one round to a group of nobodies who we knew weren't really going to get anywhere. And they didn't. They were swept out of the playoffs by the Bruins just a few weeks later. So thank you, next. But honestly, the most glorious part of this tweet by the Hurricanes was definitely the responses by Capitals fans replying to it. Like, seriously, some of these responses were legendary. Caps fans are legendary. I love you all. So here, let's read some of them out for you all in case anyone who's listening doesn't happen to have Twitter. So, at Holtby Fan Club tweets, Canes fans desperately trying to get Caps fans' attention while annoyed Caps fans swat them away is not a rivalry, it's a mosquito. I would have to agree. And then we have at Rekoslovakia, very clever, tweeted out, the Canes have become, in quotation, that guy who always assumes people are laughing at him when no one noticed he even entered the room. Again, very true. And then we have at Caps Regal Beagle tweeted out, son, we have the state of Pennsylvania to throw down with. Go play with your Legos in your room. Let the grown-ups settle this. Again, very, very true. Caps fans largely unconcerned with Carolina. It's all about the state of Pennsylvania. You can throw in some of the state of New York there as well. And then we have at Vrana Ene tweets mockingly, Canes fans. This is Canes fans talking, I guess. So Canes fans. LOL, we own this rivalry. Brock McGinn lives rent-free. And then every Caps fan alive. Again, this is every Caps fan alive saying, and then it's just followed by a gif of what can only be described as a very calm, very unbothered, and very unimpressed man calmly looking around to make sure that they weren't talking to someone else before simply uttering, okay. As in, Canes fans totally just going overboard, we live rent for you, blah, 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 blah. Caps fans, okay, dude, it's cool, whatever you say. And then we have at Alznerheimer's tweets, who do you think you are? Schittsburg? Question mark? No kidding. And then we have at DGM_racing just simply tweeted a gif of Alex Ovechkin hoisting the Stanley Cup in response, obviously signaling that we don't give a fuck about a regular season game in October. And I concur. And in response to Canes fans supposedly being better than Caps fans, my good friend and Caps season ticket holder at Chizrucker88 tweets, that's weird because I went to a Caps game in Raleigh the year we won the Cup, and not only was the arena at best half full, but most of the fans who were there were Caps fans. That is very, very true. I don't know if you've ever seen / heard a game at PNC Arena when the Caps are in town, but it's more than half of the people there are Caps fans. You get louder cheers when the Caps score a goal than when the Canes do. And another good friend of mine at VeggieTart tweets, you had to give away tickets to get people to come to your preseason games. Again, that's true. They did. Even after winning that playoff series, which they were apparently so excited about, they had to give away tickets for free to get people to come to their games. But yeah, best fans in the world, right? And then we have at J_Smith 1188 tweets simply, the Canes were 28th in attendance last year. LMFAO. Fun fact, the Canes actually had worse attendance last season than the Florida Panthers did, which, again, I don't know if you've ever seen a Florida Panthers home game, but that is very hard to do, to be worse than the Florida Panthers are attendance-wise. And then we have at J Namarato gets in on the action, tweeting, wow, Canes fans showing up for the first time in 15 years. Welcome to the NHL. See y'all again in 2034. And finally, one of the best tweetbacks comes from at CBJ Overreact, who, judging by their Twitter handle, is likely a Columbus Blue Jackets fan. So that really just goes to show you how out of line and delusional Canes fans must be if they've got a Blue Jackets fan sticking up for the Caps. But anyways, at CBJ Overreact tweets that the Canes are, in quotation, also living rent-free on North Carolina State's campus since your so-called passionate fan base can't fund its own arena. Burn. It's true, though. So anyways, to sum up, Capitals Hurricanes is only a rivalry if you are a Canes fan. Caps fans have bigger fish to fry. Sorry, Carolina. So we move right along to a game against the Dallas Stars. It was the fourth game of the Capitals season, and as such, it was also the return of star center Evgeny Kuznetsov. Kuzi entered the game to rousing cheers of Kuz from the Caps faithful, and the Birdman got to flying right away, scoring his first goal of the season on his first shot of the season less than 5 minutes into the game. Wow. Star players do what star players do. This was amazing, and it was a beauty of a goal, too. A sick top-shelf backhand that not too many players in the world would be able to put away for a goal. And Caps fans were loving it. Rope Hintsa scored for the Stars early in the second period to make it a 1-1 game, but John Carlson gave the Caps the lead back with a shot from the point after taking a pass from Alex Ovechkin. Carlson, offensively, specifically, has been red hot, as he's already racked up 8 points through just 5 games. Big numbers for anyone, and especially for a defenseman, but that's to be expected from Big JC74, our new assistant captain. By the way, congratulations to John Carlson. The second period ended with the Caps having a 2-1 lead, which at this point, now 5 games in, should be enough to give you the runs if you're a Caps fan. The holding of the lead in the third period has not been great so far this season. So, you know what's coming. Radulov and Kamano would score for the Stars in the third period to make it 3-2 for Dallas. So the Caps, now trailing by a goal, pull the goalie with under 2 minutes left in the game, and this is where it gets good. Well, briefly good, I should say. It lasted for all of about 60 seconds, but I'll get to that. The Caps pour on the pressure in the last minute of the game, which had me thinking, why the hell don't you just play like this all the time? And Nicklas Backstrom slams in the tying goal with about 30 seconds left. So Capital One Arena is going crazy. Life is good once again. The crowd is roaring as regulation time runs out. And so to overtime we go for the second game in a row. Now, you'd think with all of the firepower that the Caps have, 3-on-3 hockey would be a very good thing for them. And it usually is. But so far this season, that has not been the case. Tyler Seguin, he would score just 43 seconds into OT, and for the second game in a row, the Caps have to settle for the loser point after blowing a third period lead. So you remember how I said I was okay with them blowing a lead every once in a while, under certain circumstances, such as the second night of a back-to-back, so long as the blowing of leads did not become a pattern. Yeah, well, hold on, because I'm not even finished yet. We've still got the Nashville game to talk about. The good news is, by the way, if you PVR that one, you probably want to watch it. Just don't watch the last 5 minutes or so. But the good news is that the Caps had captured 6 of a possible 8 points through their first 4 games. They played 3 of those games without Evgeny Kuznetsov. They've played every game so far without Michael Kempny. He is getting really close to a return, but he's not quite there yet. They're being very cautious with him, and rightfully so. That's the smart thing to do. There's a lot of hockey left to be played this season, and Kempny, obviously, a very important part of the team. So even with a full lineup, and especially so with injuries and or suspensions, 6 of a possible 8 points out of the gate is always a good thing. So let's try to remember that and try not to be too negative here. The other good news is that Kuznetsov, having not played a meaningful game in months, he already looked really, really good in his return. That's to be expected, I would say, as he's a great player with a bit of a chip on his shoulder now. He wants to prove himself all over again, and that can only bode well for the Caps. He maybe got a little bit too comfortable on his laurels after the Caps won the Stanley Cup, and he led the playoffs with 32 points in 24 games. But now he's raring to go once again, so that's excellent. And as Caps fans, we're of course all hoping that he's going to stay motivated like that, because with Kuzi, it's really all about the effort, because when he's on, when he's going, he really is one of the very best players in the entire league. And so staying on the theme of good news, the Caps' face-offs seem to have dramatically improved from where they were at last season, which is funny because they still have all 4 of the same centers that they had last season. Some of the improvement could be due to the fact that Evgeny Kuznetsov missed the first 3 games of the season, as he is the Caps' worst center when it comes to face-offs by a wide margin. It's not even close. But even Kuznetsov seems to have upped his face-off game so far this season, and even though he's still below 50%, he is up to 45%, which doesn't sound too good at all until you realize that he was at 38% last season. So that's actually a large improvement of 7 percentage points. And as a whole, you can already tell that the Caps players have worked a lot on face-offs in the off-season. We all know that was something that they had targeted, that they wanted to improve upon, as they know that more face-off wins leads to more puck possession, and more puck possession for this team of sharpshooters makes them very dangerous to play against, even more so than last season. So anyways, they are currently at 8th in the league on face-offs at nearly 52% efficiency. That is, like I said, a dramatic improvement over their numbers last season, when they were dead last in the league out of 31 teams at a measly 45.7%. And speaking of face-offs and how winning them leads to puck possession, that's extremely evident this season, as the Caps' improved face-off numbers have also led to improved puck possession. Their puck possession metrics are way, way up over what they did last season. So heading into the game against Nashville, the Caps had outshot all 4 teams that they had faced. That bodes very well for long-term success here this season. This is a very talented team that is bound to finish with a much higher than average shooting percentage, so lots of puck possession, lots of shots on net. That's going to lead to a lot of goals, even more than the barrels and barrels of them that they scored last season. Okay, so that's pretty much where the sunshine and rainbows end, because now we have to talk about this Nashville game. And while there were certainly bright spots and great moments in this game as well, and okay, admittedly, Nashville is a great team, just like the Caps are a great team, and they faced off in what was a great game. Very exciting, lots of firepower, lots of goals, not much fun for the 2 former Vezina Trophy winners in Braden Holtby and Pekka Rinne. But the bright spots for the Caps were obviously in the offense, as Alex Ovechkin scored twice. The power play broke out of its mini funk by going 2 for 4. TJ Oshie scored again. He's already got 3 goals on the young season. Tom Wilson scored a shorthanded beauty of a goal, and Lars Eller got his first goal of the season. Dmitry Orlov was a beast on offense. John Carlson racked up 3 more points in what is already on pace to be a monster season for him. But honestly, you guys, the blown leads, I just can't fathom it, especially in the third period. And this is the 3rd straight game where it happened, where they blew a lead in the third period and then went on to lose the game. The Caps had a 2-goal lead going into the third period of this one. They lost it on goals by Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene, which made it a 4-4 game in the third. Thankfully, TJ Oshie scored what my naive ass assumed would be the game winner with less than 10 minutes left, making it 5-4 for the Caps. And then with about 5 minutes left in the game, remember I told you to turn that TV off at the 5-minute mark, The Caps give up 2 goals in 28 seconds to the Preds, giving the Preds their first lead of the hockey game, and ultimately giving the Preds the victory. So not a great time to give the other team their first lead of the game with 5 minutes left. And I just don't get it. I don't get why the Caps are consistently taking their foot off of the gas when they have a lead in the third period, rather than, continuing to play the same style of hockey that got them the lead in the first place, and ramming it down the opposition's throats. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I'm 200% certain that it is coaching. And Todd Reirden might not actively be telling his guys to sit back and play prevent defense with the lead, but at the very least, he is clearly unable to convey to them that they need to stay aggressive enough to force the issue. And, thinking back, this was a problem when Barry Trotz was here too, so this is not a new issue. Specifically, the last season that Trotz was the head coach here, the prevent defense style that the Caps would play in the third period of games where they had a lead was enough to drive me crazy. But Todd Reirden, of course, he was also here. He was also the associate coach then, and he was in charge specifically of the defensive side of the game. So who knows if it was Trotz or if it was actually just Reirden. The fact that it's still the same shit going on after Trotz is already gone suggests to me that it was more Reirden the whole time. Anyways, I've had enough. We've already seen enough blown third period leads to last us until well after Christmas at the very least. So we don't need to see any more in 2019, that's for sure. And please, I do not want to hear this garbage about Holtby sucks, give Samsonov the starts, etc., etc., etc. First of all, you're high if you think that the Caps should trade a Vezina trophy winning, Stanley Cup winning goaltender so that they can gift the net to a kid who's played a grand total of 1 NHL game. I'm not saying that Samsonov is not going to be great. I actually think he will be great. I'm just saying that's one hell of a small sample size. And second of all, the Caps are playing crap defense in front of Holtby. He faced 38 shots in the game against Nashville, many of them of the high danger variety. And here's the thing, if you're giving up 15 odd man breaks against in every game, then your goalie is actually doing pretty damn well if he's only giving up goals on 3 of them. The Caps need to clean it up in front of him. I know they're missing Michael Kempny a lot, but there's still no reason a team like this should be giving up this amount of odd man breaks against per game. It's ridiculous. Anyways, because my parents always taught me to use we'll call it the positivity sandwich technique. That is when you're going to say something negative, sandwich it between 2 positive things. I will finish on a positive note as well by noting that Capitals Predators would be one hell of a Stanley Cup final, and can we please witness that sometime soon? And B, just to toot my own horn a bit, it looks like I was absolutely right about how the Caps were not utilizing Alex Ovechkin shot enough on the power play early in this season, as they finally started getting the puck to him in the game against the Preds, and Ovi blasted 2 power play goals past Pekka Rinne to get the Caps power play back on track. It's almost as if having your best shooter, the best shooter in the world, shoot the puck is actually a good idea. Who would have thought? Anyway, Ovi moved into 4th all-time in NHL history in power play goals, breaking the tie with Luc Robitaille. Robitaille had 247 power play goals. Ovi now has 249. Wow. He will be in first place before he retires. That's basically a foregone conclusion. Anyway, Caps fans, I've talked enough for today. We've got the Dallas Stars again on Saturday, and I'm hoping for a Caps lead that stays as a Caps lead and then becomes a win. That would be a nice change of pace. Until next time, thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Google Podcasts, on Stitcher, really wherever you get your podcasts from, and leave us a rating and or a review if you like what you hear. And if you don't like what you hear, just keep it to yourself. Just kidding. Talk to you next time, babes. Let's go Caps!